Question 1. To illustrate this point, Jacob, an HVAC technician, is installing a rooftop condenser on a commercial building. The parapet wall is only 28 inches high and there is no guardrail system installed. Jacob ties off using a 6-foot lanyard to an anchorage point located at foot level behind him, which is rated for 5,000 pounds. Mid-span, however, the rooftop is narrow and Jacob could swing if he falls. Which of the following is the significant risk in this setup despite anchorage compliance? A. The parapet wall is not tall enough to serve as fall protection. B. The foot level anchorage does not prevent a pendulum swing fall hazard. C. The lanyard exceeds the required tensile strength under OSHA. D. The location lacks rescue equipment on site. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. While the anchorage strength meets OSHA 1926.502 D15, a key hazard in Jacob's setup is the swing fall or pendulum effect. When tied off at foot level behind the worker, lateral movement during a fall can cause the worker to swing into nearby structures, leading to injury. OSHA and ANSI 0.2 emphasize not only anchorage strength, but also positioning to minimize swing falls. Parapet height and rescue gear matter, but they are not the primary concern here. Correct system design must account for fall path, anchorage location, and swing hazards. Question 2. From a historical standpoint, fall protection requirements in HVACR work have evolved substantially. The technician is tasked with working on a sloped roof, 6 feet elevation, and is provided with a warning line system and safety monitor as the only means of protection. Which of the following statements best reflects OSHA's stance on this setup? A. OSHA permits this configuration for HVACR tasks at any height. B. This setup is only acceptable for residential construction under specific exemptions. C. The configuration is fully compliant as long as the monitor is within 50 feet. D. This method is sufficient if the technician is trained in hazard recognition. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. OSHA 1926.501 B10 allows a warning line and safety monitor only for roofing work on low-slope roofs and only under certain conditions. HVAC installation is not considered roofing under OSHA's definitions. Therefore, using this system alone is not compliant for HVACR work. ANSI also requires more comprehensive systems such as FOS for elevated tasks. Technicians must use appropriate fall protection regardless of training or monitor distance unless an exemption explicitly applies. Question 3. In response to repeated near-miss incidents involving ladder use, a supervisor assigns Martin to conduct a job hazard analysis JHA before servicing multiple rooftop units. The rooftop includes skylights, trip hazards, and equipment located near the edge. What should Martin prioritize in his JHA to effectively reduce fall risk? A. Confirm that personal fall arrest systems are available. B. Focus solely on identifying visible trip hazards. C. Identify all fall hazards including unguarded skylights and access paths. D. Ensure the ladder is secured and correctly angled. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. A thorough JHA per ANSI Z.2 and OSHA 1910 subpart D requires the technician to systematically identify all potential fall hazards, including unguarded skylights, often overlooked but classified as fall hazards, edge proximity, and access route obstacles. Merely checking for FOS or ladder compliance is insufficient. Effective hazard control depends on hazard recognition, elimination, or mitigation, which is the foundation of a compliant and meaningful JHA. Question 4. With the advent of modular HVAC systems, technicians often service rooftop units that lack engineered anchorages. Erica is asked to secure a fall arrest system but finds no designated anchor points. She considers attaching to a vent stack that appears stable. What is the most critical reason why this decision would be unsafe? A. Vent stacks are usually made of materials that degrade over time. B. The location may not provide adequate fall clearance. C. Structural integrity and load rating cannot be verified. D. Vent stacks are often outside the technician's fall radius. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Per OSHA 1926.502 D15 and ANSI 0.18, anchorages for fall arrest must support at least 5,000 pounds per user or be designed, installed, and used under the supervision of a qualified person. Vent stacks are not structural elements and typically cannot be verified for load rating. Even if visually stable and tested anchors violate the standard. Clearance and location may also matter, but structural verification is the most immediate danger in this scenario. Question 5. Through the lens of recent accident reports, a technician named Thomas regularly uses a 20-foot extension ladder to service ductwork in commercial spaces. He consistently leans the ladder against metal ducting for stability. Why is this? A significant safety violation. A. The ladder may damage the ductwork surface. B. Metal ducts conduct electricity, posing electrocution risk. C. The ladder exceeds the maximum height allowed by OSHA. D. Extension ladders cannot be used indoors. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. OSHA 1910.23c and ANSI standards warn against placing ladders against unstable or conductive surfaces. Metal ductwork can conduct electricity, especially in environments with exposed wires or motors, leading to electrocution risk. The height or indoor use isn't prohibited, but the contact point and potential electrical hazard are crucial. A safer method would involve using non-conductive ladders or anchoring to structural surfaces. Question 6. Considering the evidence, a technician named Priya is working near a skylight on a flat roof. Instead of a fall arrest system, she is connected to a restraint system that limits her movement to within 4 feet of the edge. What is the primary function of a fall restraint system in this case? A. To stop a fall in progress and reduce fall distance. B. To eliminate the need for a harness. C. To prevent the user from reaching the fall hazard. D. To redirect the swing fall away from the edge. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Fall restraint systems are preventive, not arrestive. They are designed so the worker cannot physically reach the edge or fall hazard. OSHA defines fall restraint as a method of fall prevention, and ANSI Point 3 states that such systems must be adjusted to limit movement. Unlike falls, these systems don't stop falls mid-air, but rather prevent the condition for fall from occurring in the first place. Swing fall issues relate to arrest systems, not restraints. Question 7. The underlying principle of fall protection includes not only arresting falls but also ensuring rescue. During a scissor lift operation inside a warehouse, Ethan falls while wearing a full-body harness attached to a self-retracting lifeline SRL. His coworkers are unsure how to lower him safely. What critical component was missing from the safety plan? A. The SRL was not properly rated for indoor use. B. The harness may have been incorrectly worn. C. A documented and rehearsed rescue plan was not in place. D. The lift lacked tow boards for tool safety. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Both OSHA 1926.502 D20 and ANSI Point 2 require a written and practicable rescue plan for fall arrest situations. Workers suspended in a harness are at risk of suspension trauma, and delay in rescue can cause permanent injury or death. Proper equipment alone is insufficient. Personnel must be trained in rescue procedures. Lack of documented plan and drills is critical. Safety failure in fall protection programs. Question 8. The general consensus is that the most effective way to prevent workplace injuries is not PPE, but hazard elimination. In planning an attic ductwork replacement, the project manager chooses to install new duct from below using scissor lifts, eliminating attic entry altogether. Which level of the fall hazard hierarchy is this an example of? A. Substitution. B. Administrative control. C. Engineering control. D. Elimination. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. According to NIOSH's and OSHA's hierarchy of controls, elimination is the most effective means of hazard control. In this case, the manager eliminated the need to work in an attic high-risk fall environment by changing the method of installation. This surpasses PE training or even engineer controls in effectiveness. Substitution would involve changing materials. Engineering controls modify the environment. Administrative controls change policies or behavior. Question 9. In comparison with other trades, HVACR technicians often work in varied environments requiring quick adaptation. During a pre-task safety check, Ahmed dons his harness but skips checking the stitching and D-rings due to time constraints. Which of the following best explains why this is unacceptable even if the harness looks intact? A. Harnesses must be checked weekly by supervisors. B. OSHA requires written inspection records for all PPE. C. Visual appearance does not guarantee the integrity of the harness. D. D-rings are designed to self-inspect during use. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. And CZ.2 and OSHA 1910.140 C.18 require inspection before each use. Minor issues like broken stitching, rusted D-rings, or UV degradation may not be visible without close inspection but can lead to catastrophic failure during. Therefore, there's no requirement for weekly supervisor checks or self-inspecting D-rings. Users are responsible for pre-use, and harness must be removed from service if there's any doubt about its condition. Question 10. Cross-different scenario. HVACR technicians often work alone or in pairs at elevated heights. During a rooftop unit replacement, no one informs the site manager that two technicians are on the roof. What is the primary safety risk associated with this communication failure? A. Miscommunication can lead to tool shortages. B. Unauthorized personnel might enter the area. C. In an emergency, no one would know help is needed. D. Project deadlines might be missed. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Effective communication is essential in fall protection planning. Per OSHA 1926.503 and ANSI 0.2, a lone or unreported worker who falls may not receive timely assistance. This significantly increases the danger of suspension trauma or death. Safety plans must include personnel accountability, check-ins, and hazard communication, war tool availability, and timelines. Logistical issues. Life safety depends on clear communication of who's working where and when. Question 11. During the process of inspecting a packaged rooftop HVAC unit, technician Angela must open the side access panel while standing on a 36-inch platform without guardrails. She uses no harness or fall protection system, believing the height is too low for concern. What is the correct interpretation of OSHA's requirement in this situation? A. Any surface under 4 feet is exempt from fall protection. B. Platform height under 6 feet never requires fall protection. C. Fall protection may be required if the surface is dangerous, regardless of height. D. She is only required to wear helmet, not fall protection gear. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA 1910.28b states that fall protection may be required at any height if working near dangerous equipment, open holes, or conditions that amplify the risky. G. Working on slippery or unstable platforms. The 4 or 6 foot rules apply to general conditions but are not absolute. Angela's assumption is unsafe. Evaluating surface conditions is part of a proper risk assessment. Height alone does not determine protection needs. Question 12. When presented with an HVAC service call-on, a multi-level rooftop with varying elevations and no guardrails, Marcus accesses a lower section using a portable ladder. He then crosses near several unguarded roof hatches to reach the unit. What should Marcus have done differently to ensure compliance with OSHA and ANSI standards? A. Use a man lift to access all roof sections instead of walking. B. Stay at least 6 feet away from roof hatches and edges. C. Ensure all hatches are protected with guardrails or covers. D. Only work with a partner to provide fall oversight. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA 1910.28b3 requires that roof access points, hatches, and holes be guarded by a railing system, cover, or equivalent fall protection. Simply keeping distance is insufficient, especially during movement. ANSI standards also emphasize passive protection like guardrails around openings. Marcus should have confirmed that hatches were protected or used a FOS when working within proximity. A partner is helpful but not a regulatory substitute for controls. Question 13. The central argument for fall protection enforcement on job sites is the proactive recognition of hazards. Technician Lee is assigned to replace a failed rooftop economizer but fails to identify a narrow parapet wall, steep slope, and nearby skylight as hazards. Which of the following best explains the root cause of Lee's oversight? A. She assumed roof access was previously approved. B. She did not complete proper fall hazard assessment. C. She was wearing harness, so she ignored surroundings. D. She relied on coworker to report hazards. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Fall hazard identification must be systematic and proactive as required under ANSI Point 2 and OSHA 1926 Subpart M. Lee's oversight stems from skipping the hazard recognition step, cornerstone of pre-task planning. PPE alone doesn't ensure safety. Hazards like skylights, parapets, and slope must be actively identified and mitigated. Safety programs should train workers to conditions before exposure to risk. Question 14. The effectiveness of fall protection can be compromised by improper tool use. While on a lift servicing ductwork, technician Adam uses a short bungee cord to tie his harness to a nearby pipe bracket instead of an approved anchor. What is the most dangerous assumption Adam is making? A. That all anchorage devices function equally well. B. That the bungee cord will absorb fall energy safely. C. That tie-off to nearby structural elements is allowed. D. That fall arrest is only required at extreme heights. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. A bungee cord is not a certified energy absorber and cannot withstand the forces in a fall. OSHA 1926.502 D16 and ANSI Point 13 mandate that only approved shock-absorbing lanyards or SRLS be used in FOS. Using improvised or makeshift connections introduces catastrophic risk. Even if the bracket was structurally sound, the bungee cord's failure under load would nullify the system's effectiveness. Equipment must meet rated standards. Question 15. To what extent does performing electrical diagnostics impact fall protection? Technician Noah is troubleshooting a blow motor on a unit located on an elevated walkway with no fall protection. He believes the task doesn't justify PPE since it's electrical, not physical. Which fall protection principle is most relevant here? A. Fall protection is only required during mechanical work. B. OSHA exempts electrical work from fall rules under certain conditions. C. Elevated electrical work requires fall protection just like other tasks. D. Walkways are automatically safe zones if they're part of equipment access. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. There are no exemptions in fall protection standards for electrical tasks. OSHA 1910.28 and ANSI Point 2 require that any work on elevated surfaces over 4 feet, even electrical, must include fall protection. The nature of the task, electrical versus mechanical, does not negate the hazard posed by the height. Walkways, unless fully guarded, are not assumed safe zones. The correct approach includes proper PPE and fall protection. Question 16. The correlation between poor planning and fall incidents is well documented. Technician Sabrina is scheduled to inspect 5 units on a large commercial roof. The company lacks formal hazard identification procedures and workers determine risk as they go. Which risk assessment principle has the employer most clearly violated? A. Delegating hazard evaluation to senior technicians. B. Requiring fall protection only when ladders are used. C. Failing to provide a structured hazard identification system. D. Allowing workers to choose their own fall protection methods. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. OSHA 1910.132 D and ANSI Point 2 require that employers conduct formal hazard assessments to identify risks before work begins. Leaving safety decisions to workers without structure undermines risk control. Systematic planning and documentation are legal obligations. This includes identifying fall hazards, selecting control measures, and training personnel. Random judgment is insufficient and unsafe. Question 17. In light of recent developments, companies are emphasizing documented competency in fall protection. Technician Omar uses an SRL incorrectly, connecting it to his side deering during a scissor lift job. What best explains why this represents a training failure? A. Deering placement has no effect on SRL function. B. Side deerings are designed for positioning, not fall arrest. C. SRLS can be connected to any harness point in indoor settings. D. Training isn't required for SRL use under 6 feet. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. According to ANSI.11 and OSHA 1926.502, D side D-rings are for positioning only. SRLS and fall arrest systems must be connected to the dorsal D-ring between the shoulders. Incorrect use can cause the worker to flip or rotate during a fall, increasing injury risk. This is a training failure in equipment knowledge and proper use. Competency must include anatomy and the correct use of connecting devices. Question 18. From a practical standpoint, HVACR technicians frequently shortcut procedures under pressure. Carl skips donning his harness on a quick 10-minute ladder job, arguing, "I've done this 100 times. Which core behavioral safety principle is being violated here?" A. Workers must be supervised at all times. B. Complacency is leading cause of repeat incidents. C. Technicians should rely on instinct for short tasks. D. Personal experience overrides formal procedures. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Complacency. The false sense of safety based on habit is well-known behavioral hazard. OSHA and ANSI emphasize consistency over convenience in applying safety procedures. Even quick tasks require full protection if full risk exists. Workers must understand that past success does not reduce current risk. Behavioral safety culture promotes diligence and adherence to controls regardless of familiarity or duration. Question 19. Taking into account the dynamic environments of HVAC installations, Jennifer must choose a fall arrest system while working on an open-air catwalk. She selects a 6-foot shock-absorbing lanyard, but clearance beneath the catwalk is only 9 feet. Why is this an unsafe configuration? A. Lanyards cannot be used with open-air structures. B. Clearance is insufficient for total fall distance. C. Shock absorbers degrade in outdoor conditions. D. OSHA prohibits lanyards under 10 feet of clearance. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Lanyards require sufficient fall clearance, typically 18.5 feet for a 6-foot lanyard with deceleration, D-ring shift, and safety factor. With only 9 feet of clearance, Jennifer risks striking the surface before the system arrests the fall, violating OSHA 1926.502 and ANSI.13 standards. An SRL or restraint system may be more appropriate. OSHA does not prohibit lanyards outdoors, but requires fall distance calculations. Question 20. The foundation of professional HVACR fall protection practice is ethical accountability. A site supervisor learns a new hire is using damaged harnesses until the next shipment arrives, but chooses not to intervene to avoid project delays. What legal and ethical standard is most directly violated? A. The right of workers to decide on their own PPE. B. OSHA's requirement for employer provide PPE only. C. The supervisor's duty to enforce immediate equipment removal. D. The principle of progressive discipline for new workers. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. OSHA 1910.140C18 and ANSI.2 clearly state that damaged fall protection equipment must be removed from service immediately. Supervisors are legally and ethically responsible for enforcing this. Failing to act constitutes negligence and increases liability in the event of an incident. Delay or inaction is not excused by scheduling concerns. Worker rights or DITA are irrelevant in this urgent safety context. Question 21. Among the various types of fall protection used in mechanical rooms with exposed beams and overhead ducts, technician Avery installs the first by wrapping a lanyard directly around a horizontal steel beam and clipping back to the lanyard itself. He believes the structure can support 5,000 pounds. What is the primary compliance issue in this situation? A. Lanyards cannot be used for anchorage in mechanical rooms. B. The beam must be pre-certified and clearly labeled by the manufacturer. C. Wrapping the lanyard without a proper anchorage connector may damage the system. D. Steel beams cannot be used without energy absorbers. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. OSHA 1926.502 D15 and ANSI.18 require anchorages be properly connected using rated connectors, not just wrapping lanyards. Sharp beam edges can cut or degrade webbing, leading to failure. ANSI guidelines specify that anchor slings, beam straps, or D-ring connectors be used to avoid stressing or damaging the fall arrest components. Simply wrapping lanyard is misuse of equipment and violates both OSHA and manufacturer instructions. Question 22. Contrary to popular belief, working inside an attic space during summer HVAC duct rerouting can pose significant fall risks. Technician Lewis is in a narrow truss-style attic with no visible floor decking, stepping between joists to reach a connection. What is the primary hazard in this situation requiring fall protection consideration? A. Confined space classification by OSHA. B. Heat stress in attic spaces exceeding 100 deg. C. Ceiling breakthrough due to unprotected walking surfaces. D. Inhalation of fiberglass insulation. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Working on joists with no decking constitutes an elevated work surface with fall-through hazards. OSHA 1910.28b3 treats surfaces with fragile or non-load-bearing material like drywall ceilings as fall hazards. Lewis risks stepping through the ceiling and falling to the occupied space below. Even though the attic is enclosed, fall protection applies. Fiberglass and heat are health hazards but do not replace the risk of breakthrough falls. Question 23. By evaluating the cause of a fall incident involving technician Nina, investigators find she fell through an unmarked skylight while retrieving tools. There were no guardrails, covers, or warning signs. Which of the following safety failures most directly contributed to the incident? A. The absence of a job site supervisor during task execution. B. A lack of emergency medical supplies on the rooftop. C. Failure to identify and control a known fall-through hazard. D. Improper use of a full-body harness. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA 1910.28. B3 and ANSI Z.2 classify skylights as floor holes requiring guarding, covers, or signage. The employer failed to implement basic fall hazard controls. But even if a supervisor had been present, the lack of physical barriers was a key contributor. Fall-throughs are one of the most underestimated causes of fatal accidents in HVAC work. Harness use is irrelevant if no FOS was anchored. Prevention depends on hazard control. Question 24. In terms of portable ladder use, technician Carla chooses the Type I fiberglass step ladder to install ducting above a ceiling grid. She leans sideways to reach a duct hanger without descending to reposition the ladder. What four related risks does this behavior most clearly demonstrate? A. Fiberglass ladders are too unstable for HVAC work. B. Leaning outside the ladder side rails compromises stability. C. OSHA prohibits ceiling work from ladders without partner. D. The ladder's duty rating was incorrect. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Per OSHA 1910.23 B13, workers must not lean or overreach beyond the side rails of a ladder. This can cause it to tip sideways, leading to a fall. Even with a properly rated ladder, lateral movement is the leading cause of ladder-related injuries. Carla should have descended and repositioned the ladder. Type I fiberglass ladders are appropriate and no regulation requires a partner for ceiling tasks. Question 25. Throughout the course of a new rooftop HVAC installation project, the safety team replaces ladder access with temporary stairs and installs guardrails around all unit perimeters. Fall protection harnesses are still issued but rarely needed. What level of the fall hazard hierarchy is being demonstrated here? A. Substitution. B. Administrative control. C. Engineering control. E. PPE reliance. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Installing guardrails and stairs are engineering controls which eliminate exposure to fall hazards through physical modifications to the environment. OSHA hierarchy of controls. This approach is more effective than PPE or behavior-based solutions. While harnesses may still be present, the reliance on passive systems reduces the need for active compliance. Substitution involves replacing materials or and administrative controls focus on rules and scheduling. Question 26. The traditional approach to safety meetings is verbal instruction. However, after a multilingual crew was deployed on an HVAC job site, misunderstandings about fall protection requirements led to unsafe tie-offs. What is the most effective way to ensure communication of safety protocols in such environments? A. Designate a bilingual supervisor for all tasks. B. Post written fall protection rules in English and local language. C. Use visual aids, demonstrations, and hands-on training. D. Increase the frequency of toolbox talks. Answer. Correct answer. See explanation. Effective safety communication must consider language barriers and literacy levels. According to OSHA 1910.132 F, training must be provided in a language and manner understandable to the employee. Visual demonstrations and hands-on learning are the most reliable method, especially in multicultural environments. Written postings help but can be insufficient alone. A bilingual supervisor is helpful but not a substitute for effective delivery methods. Question 27. The prevailing attitude towards safety in small HVACR businesses often emphasizes productivity over regulation. Technician Brian is pressured by his employer to skip the harness for 10-minute roof inspection to avoid delay. What legal standard is most clearly being violated in this situation? A. OSHA only requires fall protection for long-duration tasks. B. Workers can voluntarily waive PPE if documented. C. Employers must provide and enforce the use of fall protection. D. Harnesses are optional during inspection tasks. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. OSHA 1926.501 and 1926.503 make it clear employers must not only provide fall protection, but also enforce its use. There are no duration-based exemptions for exposure to fall hazards. Voluntary waivers are not recognized by OSHA, and inspections are not excluded unless qualified under rare exceptions, e.g., on scaffolding under 10 feet with no hazards. Brian's employer is engaging in illegal and unethical behavior by encouraging safety violation. Question 20. The most significant aspect of servicing commercial air handling units is that they are often located near mezzanines or catwalks. Technician Priya accesses a unit 10 feet above ground but doesn't use FOS because the catwalk has midrails. What condition must be verified to exempt FOS in this case? A. Catwalk must be wider than 6 feet. B. Top rails must be between 3.9 4.5 inches high and withstand 200 pounds. C. Midrails alone are sufficient protection above 6 feet. D. Workers may opt out of FOS on permanent structures. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Per OSHA 1910.29, B. A complete guardrail system must include top rails between 3.9 4.5 inches and capable of withstanding 200 pounds of force to eliminate the requirement for FOS. Midrails help but do not satisfy the fall protection standard alone. The worker cannot waive FOS based on structure type, and width of the catwalk doesn't determine compliance. Question 29. As demonstrated by incident reports, workers often don't report worn or damaged harnesses due to peer pressure or fear of being seen as complainers. Technician Ellen notices fraying shoulder strap on her coworker's harness but says nothing. What behavioral safety failure is most clearly evident? A. Equipment inspections are the supervisor's responsibility. B. Ellen is not authorized to make PPE decisions. C. Lack of peer-to-peer accountability culture. D. Fall arrest systems are self-check tools. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Behavioral safety culture relies on peer accountability, where team members are encouraged to speak up when they observe unsafe behavior. OSHA 1926.502 and ANSIs require immediate removal of damaged PPE. Coworkers play a key role in maintaining safety standards, and fear of social repercussions should be countered with a culture of proactive communication and mutual care. Supervisors manage compliance, but everyone shares responsibility for safety. Question 30. Examining the consequences of a recent fall on a job site, it was found that the technician hung suspended for 18 minutes before rescue. There was no formal rescue plan, and on-site workers had to call the fire department. What critical standard was violated? A. The technician exceeded the fall clearance zone. B. OSHA requires that 911 be the only emergency option. C. Rescue plans must be written, rehearsed, and equipment available. D. Suspension trauma is not recognized by OSHA. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Per OSHA 1926.502 D20 and ANSISA.2, employers must have a site-specific, rehearsed, and practical rescue plan when fall arrest systems are used. Relying solely on 911 is not compliant, as delays can lead to suspension trauma, a medical emergency caused by blood pooling in the legs. The rescue plan must include equipment and trained personnel. on site for rapid response. The lack of preparedness was the central failure here.